Farmers today are facing rising costs, volatile markets, and extreme weather. The Better Way to Farm podcast digs into strategies to help you take control of farm inputs and maximize profit so your farm can thrive for generations. Remember to take advantage of our free resources at abetterwaytofarm.com. Now, from America's Heartland, here's your host.
Hey guys, Rod here at A Better Way to Farm, where we increase yields and improve profits. Tonight we want to talk about tight margins and where to focus. And so if this is of interest to you, then here we go. Here's a question for you. Do you want to cut costs without cutting corners? Oftentimes cutting the corners gets us in a world of hurt and leaves us sad at the end of the growing season. And yet we do have to be very judicious in how we spend our money this year. I've talked to so many growers who are talking about what they want to do and how they're going to do it and they'd like to try something new, but they're looking for low input with a high reward, low hanging fruit, so to speak. And one of those things that fits in is the sugar product, which we won't talk about tonight, but you know it's there. Here's the bottom line. If you're farming in 2025, you have felt the squeeze. There's no question about it. Margins are tighter than they've been for a long time, and every single dollar is going to count. But here's the thing. Cutting the wrong cost are going to cost us a lot more in the long run. I think that sometimes we get all caught up and we just say, hey, here's the temptation is to just cut across the board. We're going to cut our inputs by 25%, and that's what we're going to do. And sometimes that works, and sometimes that's what we should do. But sometimes maybe we need to say, we're looking at this wrong. Maybe we need to think about, maybe I need to spend exactly the same amount of money, but I need to redirect it. Or maybe even though I'm going to cut 25%, I'm not doing it in the same old way. You know, I had a grower come to me this year, and he went to his retailer, and told the retailer, it was like, I lost $110 an acre in 2024. I need some help. What are we going to do? And the retailer literally reached out and put his hand on the grower's shoulder, and he said, the only thing better than 200 pounds of DAP is 300. Guys, that kind of thinking is going to get us in a world of hurt, okay? I realize that one of the things we can do to fix this problem is raise our yield. And I had a great conversation with a grower yesterday, and he was talking about the fact that he is very excited. He's someone who made the decision to go with us. He decided in the winter. He got prepared in the spring. He is doing everything right now. And he said, Rod, I'm the most excited that I've ever been. Because in the process of getting set up to work with you, I figured out some other things too. I started paying attention to detail. And he said, I had one thing that I figured out that saved me $13,000 this year. And I'm eternally grateful for that. Guys, if he gets exactly the same yield and spent exactly the same amount of money as he did in 24, he's already made $13,000 he wasn't going to make. Why? Because he's looking at it differently, because he's thinking differently. And all of a sudden, when we start thinking, things happen. And that temptation just cut across the board is probably something we want to avoid. Guys, we don't want to survive. We do, don't get me wrong. Our goal is to make sure we get to farm in 2026. But instead of just trying to play for a tie, nobody wants, that's not exciting. Oh, how was the game? We tied. Oh, gee, that sounds like fun. No, let's figure out how to win. We don't want to survive. We want to stay profitable. And if we're going to do that, what we're going to have to do is we got to do that by making smarter, not smaller, choices. Smarter decisions are what's going to be our ticket out of this deal. As that grower I was talking to, he said, the way things are looking right now, I can totally see how we're going to raise a 25 bushel average better than we did ever before. And he's like, Rod, I spent a little bit less money, and if I get that 25 bushel that I think I'm pretty sure I'm going to get, my cost per bushel is going to go way down. And when we make that cost per bushel drop like that, everything else works better. The cash flows work better. The P&Ls work better. The banker is much happier. Here's the bottom line. What do we got to focus on? Number one is fertility. Our soil doesn't care how low the market is. It doesn't matter that corn was down 4 cents today or that we can only contract it for $4 and a dime. That doesn't make any difference to the soil. The soil only knows that it needs the right food. And when we start guessing or skipping, we can hurt that way more than we're going to help. And guys, being judicious with our money says that we need to stop just putting on NPK, 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 because if more was the answer, you would be growing 500 bushel corn right now. But the fact is, we don't want to guess. We don't want to skip things. What we want to do is make sure we find those limiting factors. And let's talk about that. I think about Greg over in Illinois. I think about the guy I was talking to last night. I think about the growers that we work with all over the United States. And every one of them talks about the same thing. If you get a really good fertility plan and you address NPK along with the secondaries and the micros, good things happen. And that cost per bushel drops. That's the key, getting that cost per bushel to go down. And we do that by maybe lowering inputs a little bit, but by increasing yield. And guys, limiting factor is what's holding us back. So we want to make sure we address zinc, manganese, copper, boron, magnesium, sulfur, whatever it might be. We want to be addressing all of those. And the number of soil tests that we get in here that do not test for anything except NPK is appalling. It's literally appalling because we're not looking at these things. I had a conversation last night with a grower who called me and he said, hey, my neighbors think I'm crazy. But he said, I started using micronutrients and I applied those. He said, my soil works differently this year. How can that be? Guys, on that desk pad in red ink, it says, it is never wrong to do the right thing. And I believe with every fiber in my body that we're going to learn more and more and more that micronutrients are responsible for soil microbiology. And we have destroyed our microbiology to a large degree. We're not where we should be. We know that. A lot of us have not applied micronutrients ever. We've been farming these farms for 150, 200 years, and we have never put on 1 ounce of a micronutrient or even a secondary nutrient. It's all been NPK. And the fact of the matter is, we know boron feeds mycorrhiza. So what would that tell us? Well, if we have more mycorrhiza, that attaches to the roots. That's a symbiotic relationship. The roots grow better when we have more mycorrhiza. Allah, now we have more roots for more mycorrhiza. Life's simple, guys. Figure out how it works and get on the right side of it. The right side of it is to get the mycorrhiza blowing and going. That's what we want to see. And if we get bigger roots, if we get better roots, guess what happens come next year when you go to work your soil? Does it make sense that it would work a little better, that it wouldn't be packed as tight because there's more space there, because there were more roots there? Just one shining example of how that works. Let's talk about something to focus on, something that you guys can do this year. You don't have to gear up to work with us. If you're not done planting, I'm going to hit this again. And we're going to talk about soybean population. And I'm going to tell you, I am not here to have a debate with you. If you want to plant 295,000, God bless you, go do it, okay? If you want to say, well, we've always been told, I'm all for that. Here's my suggestion. Run the test. 3 words, write them down. Run the test. Guys, people want to debate, talk about why we should do this, why we need to plant 160, 180, 210, whatever it is. They say, Rod, you're completely off base. And I get more and more people coming to me saying, man, if I can get a final stand of 100,000, I am golden. And so I plant 120. We have tons of people who have ran tests and know what happens when we do that. The bottom line is to find the sweet spot in your geographic area. I don't know what it is for sure, okay? But here's what I do know. This is the easiest, most inexpensive test you can run. A lot of you can change your population from the tractor seat and it will map it for you and you will know. So plant 60 feet at 90,000 and 60 feet width at 110, 120, 125, 135 and work your way up. And when you see which one, first of all, what one yields the most, okay? Secondly, which one makes the most money? Oftentimes, we find the guys tell us that the 125,000 is the number one yielder. That it might yield the exact same at 125 as it does at 135 or 140, but it ties. Well, you don't have to be real sharp to say, hey, if I can save 15,000 seeds and get the same yield, probably ought to do that. And guys, again, I'm not here telling you what to do. The only thing I'm trying to get you to do is run the test. Because the fact of the matter is, we need to think a little differently than Grandpa. Well, Grandpa always said, man, I got to put down 210,000. Grandpa was pulling beans out of the grain bin, okay? They didn't germ very well. You're not pulling beans out of, you're not using bin run beans anymore. You're paying big dollars for your seed. So why would we not want to run this test? It baffles me, guys. I encourage you to do that. Again, we're not going to have a debate on social media about, well, in my area, I think it's this. That's fine. Doesn't matter. As you say, I ran the test and I tried it from 85,000 to 185,000. And here's what made the most money. I was in this many intros and this population made me the most money. That I would love to see. Share those things with us. Next focus area that we might take a look at, nitrogen management. If we put on too much, we wasted money. And quite honestly, if we put on too much, we may have cut our own yield. I'll come back to that in a minute. If we put on too little, we know we're going to lose yield. We want to make sure that we're hitting the sweet spot once again. Let's talk for one thing, guys. We've got the benefits of split application. And people say, well, I don't have time for that. I get it. There are certain areas where it isn't going to work. So we got a nitrogen management, like all of agriculture, is not one size fits all. I wish I could come to you and just say, hey, do this. But the fact of the matter is, if you have where I farm, you have my kind of land here in southeast, ultra southeast Iowa, and it's point rows and it's hills and it's terraces. Side dressing's not your real friend, right? You're out there trying to wide drop and there's that terrace and you've got one boom over here and it's up in the air about 30 feet. You got a boom over here and it's dragging in the dirt, ripping the corn off. That's not going to work. I get that. In that deal, in those applications, we're going to have to do what we refer to as a chemical side dress. If you have to apply all of your nitrogen up front, we get that because sometimes that's what has to be. So therefore, we use the DCD product and come along and we put that DCD in early, which slows the release of that nitrogen. So it's kind of like side dressing along the way. We do like multiple applications given a choice. We've got guys who are, I talked to Chris today. He's going to put on 10 or 15 gallon as a pre-emerge with his chemicals. He's also going to put on about 10 gallon in a 2x2 band. I like both of those. The pre-emerge will help pay the carbon penalty, especially if it's corn on corn. That band is right there ready to go. And then he's going to come in and wide drop with a judicious amount to make sure he's getting the most bang for his buck. Guys, we are aiming, we want to be in that 0.6 to 0.7 applied pounds of nitrogen, and there are variables. Organic matter can change that. You know, there are some different things that can come in there, but that's our target, that's our goal, that's what we're working on. I can tell you what it's not. Our target is not 1.2 pounds of applied nitrogen to get a bushel of corn. Absolutely, positively not. I just priced some 32 yesterday. It's 60 cents a pound. Okay, so let's pretend you're growing 300 bushel corn and you're using 1.2 pounds to get there. If you can come in there and put it on a half of that, you can put on 0.6, and that was 360 pounds. Sorry about that. So instead of using 360 pounds of nitrogen, you use 0.6 as your factor, and you get that 300 bushel on a 0.6. Now you put on 180. So you saved 180 pounds at 60 cents a pound. Guys, we're talking about serious money. Over $100 an acre swing in profit there. Okay? You can use the same numbers at 200. If you want to use 200, that's fine. At a 0.6, let's just say 0.7. You're growing 200 bushel corn, you're doing 140 pounds of N, or you're using 1.2 pounds and you're using about 250. Okay, 240. Guys, significant dollars, over $60 an acre there, just in how you manage that nitrogen. People say, I just can't make that second trip. I can't side dress. For $60 an acre, could you consider it? It'd be worthy of some consideration, I think. Maybe, anyway. You know, and so we love split application, and we don't want to use too much. I go back to the lady in Minnesota who talked about they put on the anhydrous at an angle. I'm not going to get into my thoughts on that, but they put on anhydrous at an angle. They planted straight east and west. And everywhere that the rows intersected the anhydrous band, the corn was darker green, taller. It was 1 to 2 leaves ahead all year long. And she thought, wow, there's got to be some yield difference here. And she went out and she harvested the 4 closest to the band, and she harvested the 4 the farthest away. And the yield difference was like 20 bushel to the acre in favor of where it was away from the band. Guys, too much nitrogen cuts yield for multiple reasons. We know when we overuse nitrogen now, we need to overapply potassium. We know if we overuse nitrogens at the expense, sometimes we don't get enough zinc in to have the right ratios. We know when we overuse nitrogen, we literally can plug up that plant at the bottom and nothing flows up and down. Not the nutrients, not the water, not the sugars. Nothing that we're wanting to do is working right. So guys, this is a big one. There's money here. And I understand there is value in being able to sleep. And you say, I have always applied a pound per bushel. I'm good with that. Okay. What's my favorite 3 words today? Run the test. Go out and just use 0.7 on some small areas. I don't want you to have a bleeding ulcer between now and October. I want you to have comfort. I want you to have peace. But I want you to learn, because guys, this situation that we're in, it may not be over with when 25 is over. This may be 26 also. And regardless, let's say things get fantastic in 26. Why not still figure out how to make more money? The idea is that we make as much money as we can when it's good, and we put it away for when we get into a year like this. So if we can learn how to grow corn on 0.6 or 0.7 pounds of nitrogen for a bushel, I think that's worthy of some consideration. I would highly recommend that as we go forward. So, having talked about all of these things, how do we spend our money judiciously? Do we just cut across the board? No. Do we need to make some differences? Probably. Do we want to survive or thrive? I choose thrive. Thank you very much. Do we want to just say we're going to do it the same old way and ignore the micros and the secondaries? Probably not. That's fine. But let's talk about the solution. Guys, we would love to help you. We truly would. We would love to be a part of helping you, as we've helped a lot of other farmers throughout the United States cut costs without cutting corners. And we can still make tweaks this season. We may not be able to implement a full system, but there are tweaks that we can make. If you guys would like a free soil audit, text Karen at 641-919-5570. Here's what I promise you. There's no pressure. I'll do 3-way calls with you all day long. You can talk to the people that we work with. There is no pressure here. We're not cranking on you to do anything. Here's the bottom line. If we have to crank on you to start with us as a client, then we got to crank on you for the rest of the relationship. And you're not happy, and I'm not happy, and we ain't doing that. Okay, that's not who we are. We very much believe that we are here to help, and if we can help you and you're interested, that's great. If not, that's okay. We can all still be friends. Literally, I mean that. The bottom line is, we just want to help. We're here to honestly help you, and we want to make sure that you're set up to win this year. And whatever we can do yet to go ahead and implement that, we would love to do. So here's the bottom line. A free review, even if you've never worked with us before, we would be honored to help. We get so many people who say, man, I've been going to call you for 2 years or 3 years, and finally, I'm ready. I had a guy here about a month ago, he called up and he said, I've had enough. And I thought that was an interesting way. Didn't even say hello. But what he said was, I've had enough. I've listened to you long enough. I got to reach out. Guys, here's the bottom line. We believe that you deserve a better way to farm. So let's get to it. Thanks for tuning in. We hope you're having a better day.